Welcome to Flip Math Lesson 38 for the 5th grade. Today we're going to look at understanding mixed numbers and how to use a number line to help us understand how mixed numbers work and also how fractions fit on a number line also. And so on your screen you can see a couple number lines drawn. We're going to start on the top one and we see 3 points. We see points A, B, and C, and we want to identify which numbers are being represented at each of those points. Right? The first thing we need to do when it comes to analyzing this number line is we need to understand how many parts is there between each whole number, right? Or how many fractional sections is our number line divided into. And to do that, what we want to do is we want to count the spaces. So if we start at 0 here, right, and we're going to count the spaces between 0 and 1. So that's 1 space, 2 space, 3 spaces. All right. So in terms of our fraction, we are working with groups of 3 or something over 3. Now to figure out the numerator then, we're going to count the hash marks, right? Now we're not going to count 0 because 0 represents 0. So we're going to count the first hash mark, looking at our point there, so that would be 1. Right? That's our first hash mark. And so that becomes our numerator, and that means it's 1/3. 1 of the 3 sections, right? So if we had a point here, this would be 2 out of the 3. And when we get to 1, technically we're 3 out of the 3, which means, as we know, 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. And so that's how that works. Let's try B. We're looking at here. Now understand, B is not starting against 0. It's starting with 1. So we're going to start with a whole number of 1, but now we want to figure out the fraction that goes with this. Our number line hasn't changed, so we still have 3 spaces. I'll change the color, right? 1, 2, 3 spaces. And so our denominator still remains 3. And now we count our marks. First mark, second mark. And so we get 1 2/3 for our number there. As you look at C then, we can understand that still, once again, we have 3 sections, 1, 2, 3, which means that this point would be 2, and then our dot is on the first hash mark, and so it's 2 1/3. As we go down to our second number line, we have different sets of hash marks here. So the first thing we need to do before we start figuring out our fraction is figure out how many spaces there are, right? So we can count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 spaces. Understanding that there are 5 spaces, that means we're working with fifths. We start at 6 in this case, so we're in between the 6 and the 7, so it's 6. And what fraction? Now we're going to count the marks. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 out of the 5 marks. And then we can look at our last point here, still working in groups of 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 spaces. 8 is our key number. We're starting at 8. We're in between 8 and 9. So it's going to be 8 and a fractional part of 5. And our dot is on the first hash mark. So it is 8 1/5. And so hopefully you're starting to see how a number line works to help you understand fractions and mixed numbers then. Right? Now sometimes as we look at number lines, we can help to compare fractions that are very, very similar. For instance, as we look at the problem down here, we have 1 2/3 and 1 3/4. Now understanding 1 3/4 and 2/3 has a very simple question. Which one is bigger? They don't have common denominators, so we can't compare them that way. And so in this case, if we take 2 number lines and we put them right next to each other, now we can start to see how these 2 numbers fit together and what their comparison is. So if I take my first number right here, the 1 2/3, right? I'm going to go to, right, this is our number line that's divided into thirds, so it's going to fit on this number line. And we got to start at 1. We got to go 2 hash marks, 1, 2. So that's going to be right here, and that's going to be our 1 2/3. That's where it's represented on this number line. So then our second number, 1 3/4, is going to be represented on the top number line, 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So we see that agreement there. We're going to start at the 1 here and go 3 hash marks, 1, 2, 3. And that point is right there. And so this is where they're represented. So then as we get into the problem itself, it says which one is larger. We can clearly see that 1 3/4 is larger than 1 2/3. Though now that you look at it on a number line, you realize that it's not that much larger. Right? It's not that much larger. And so you have another example of how we can use number lines to work with fractions and with mixed numbers. All right. That's 6th grade math. I don't think you want to do that. So let's pull out the sample problem. I gotta put the pen down so it realizes that I want fingers. And you can try and solve this problem. It says use a number line, or number lines actually, to find the answers to this problem. That is flip lesson 38.